Hello and welcome back to Eastbourne Council Watch. We've been a bit quiet recently because we've had exactly 0 council meetings during this month. But a few days ago we did have a Net Zero Symposium, and I'll say a bit more about that word at the end of the video. The symposium was run by a local unelected organisation, Eastbourne Eco Action Network, EAN for short, which works closely with the council. So closely, in fact, that their symposium was held in the town hall, in the room usually used for council meetings, introduced by the cabinet member for Net Zero and attended by the mayor and several other councillors, some of whom were taking leading roles. The close relationship was summed up by said cabinet member for Net Zero, and it's not the first time, when he said something like, "Oh yes, we do the housing and admin and stuff like that, and they do the fun stuff, the climate change." So our elected councillors are outsourcing their climate policy, which yes, I know comes from on high, to an unelected group, all of whom think that climate disaster is just around the corner. So there's no room for debate. Somehow, I don't think this is right. Divided into 4 groups, I just happen to be in the reducing your carbon footprint one, and inevitably offsetting by growing trees in Uganda took up a fair amount of time. Interestingly, most people in the group didn't know how much CO2 is in the atmosphere at the present time, and it took a lot of time even to make them understand the question. Eventually we got about 478 parts per million. A bit high, but near enough. More forthcoming was the number we need to get to, 350 parts per million. Rather dangerously low, I commented. Not at all, said our facilitator. Before 1850, it was 250 parts per million. Now we must move on. Conversation closed. Later, I asked another EAN member what happens when we get to 200 parts per million. "Tell me," he said. He really didn't know. God help us. Then the question of glyphosate came up. The council would like to get rid of it, but their contract has another 2 years to run, so they can't until 2026. Considering they now know that glyphosate desiccates the soil, stops it absorbing water, and therefore causes flooding, you'd think they'd be a bit braver and say no, they're going to stop it now. But perhaps it's useful to be able to attribute any flooding to climate change rather than the use of glyphosate. A question was asked about 15-minute cities, as we know that this is on the cards for, well, everywhere really. The question cited the chaos in Oxford. We were assured that no resident of that city will ever be fined for leaving their zone without the relevant permit, but after a bit of research, we found that this is not true. Why can't these people apparently in charge of keeping Eastbourne running do their own research? Overall, it was more of the same. Apps and EVs and sustainable pensions, that one from a business leader in the town who is proud to run a B Corp company. This was discussed on UK Column recently, and it's nothing to be proud of. As to symposium, the definition given in the Cambridge Dictionary is an occasion at which people who have great knowledge of a particular subject meet in order to discuss a matter of interest. Great knowledge. Thanks for watching, and until next time.